and USF Sarasota Manatee.
Have a quick jazz break with Sander Jazz. Discover this and more at WUSFjazz.org.
Listener support powers WUSF. Funding also comes from Tampa General Hospital, the region's only academic health system. Together with USF Health Morsani College of Medicine, TGH delivers groundbreaking innovation and life-saving care. For more information, visit tgh.org. American blues rock singer, songwriter, and guitarist extraordinaire Joe Bonamassa returns to the Baycare Sound with special guest Christone Kingfish Ingram. Saturday, March 21st. Visit baycaresound.com for tickets. A Ruth Eckerd Hall experience.
I'm Daylina Miller, multimedia journalist at WUSF. See photo galleries, videos, and so much more on WUSF.org, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Catch me in your community and say cheese.
More than 40 people are running to be Florida's next governor. Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins is one of them. I'm Matthew Petty, and today on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Jay Collins about his views on affordability, education, and more. Do you have a question for the Lieutenant Governor? Is there something affecting your community that you want him to know about? The number is 813-755-6562. Or you can email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org and join the conversation. Also, the Dalí Museum, ranked 5th best arts museum in the country, is expanding. Find out more about the $65 million expansion and other new changes coming to the museum. And later this hour, you may have seen him on social media singing his way to a car sale. Opera singer turned car salesman Andrew Allen Hires joins us to talk about arias and automobiles, all that, plus your calls and emails after these headlines.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, is making his first public statement since his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, was killed on the first day of the U.S.-Israel war against Iran. The younger Khamenei vows to avenge, quote, martyrs, to continue attacks on U.S. bases in the region, and to keep its blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, a critical global route for oil shipments. NPR's Greg Myrie says Iranian state media ran Khamenei's statement.
We didn't see the new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, and we didn't hear his voice. This statement was read on Iranian state media in his name. So one of the key questions is, what condition is he in? He was believed to be injured in the Israeli airstrike on day one of the war that killed the former supreme leader, his father, as well as his mother, his wife, and his son.
NPR's Greg Myrie reporting. Oil prices spiked overnight as gas prices in the U.S. become a political headache for President Trump. NPR's Tamara Keith reports it's an economic indicator people track closely.
Trump campaigned on bringing down gas prices, but since launching the war with Iran, they are way up. Jared Bernstein was on President Biden's Council of Economic Advisors.
I mean, this is a price you see twice a block when you're driving down the street, and every time you fill up your tank, you recognize how much more it costs.
If this conflict drags on, the cost of fuel could drive up other prices too, says Stephen Moore, a conservative economist.
Part of the problem for President Trump is that we already had people complaining about prices.
Affordability was shaping up to be a top issue in this year's midterms, even before the gas price spike. Tamara Keith, NPR News.
An internal government watchdog and members of Congress are separately investigating new allegations Department of Government Efficiency staffers potentially misuse sensitive Social Security data. Here's NPR's Stephen Fowler.
In a letter obtained by NPR, the Social Security Administration's Inspector General told members of Congress last week it received an anonymous complaint about, quote, potential misuse of SSA data. This week, congressional Democrats investigating DOJ's access to Social Security data also said they received new whistleblower information. That information, which was reported by the Washington Post and has not been independently reviewed by NPR, alleges a former DOJ staffer retained copies of 2 Social Security databases and wanted to use them in a private sector job. The Social Security Administration disputes the claims. Stephen Fowler, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 526 points, or more than 1%, at 46,890. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Bayer. Bayer is dedicated to delivering breakthroughs that save lives and feed the world using the scientific process. Learn more at sciencedelivers.com. This is NPR.
You're listening to WUSF 89.7. I'm Craig Kopp. Hillsborough County's governing board could get 2 new members, and the county's school superintendent position could change. But as WUSF's Steve Newborn reports, voters would have to approve both in November's election.
Lawmakers passed a bill Wednesday to expand the county commission from 7 members to 9, and it would eliminate the 3 at-large districts whose members are elected by everyone in the county. If voters approve it, the bill would also amend the county charter to increase the number of county commissioners to 11 if the county swells to more than 2.5 million people. Another bill would ask voters to make the superintendent of schools an elected position. Representative Michael Owen filed both.
The planning department instead of voting on it. Earth Justice Senior Attorney Christina Reichert says we still don't know how the developer Stonebridge plans to cool water or what and board for an outstanding junior or senior ROTC cadet. I'm Craig Kopp, WUSF 89.7 News.
You can trust WUSF to keep you up to date with the Tampa Bay Rays stadium news. And WUSF.org is also a great place for spring training info. Get the guide to Florida's Grapefruit League, complete with schedules and ticket information at WUSF.org.
Women of Resistance is a fusion of music, art, and dance that brings to life the women of World War II who risked everything to fight oppression. March 25th and 26th at the New Tampa Performing Arts Center. For tickets, visit womenofresistance.org.
This is Florida Matters live and local, sponsored by Badawi Law, and we're broadcasting from the Doctors Lorraine Rubis and Neil Frankel studio at WUSF in Tampa. I'm Matthew Petty. The Dalí Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida houses one of the largest collections of Salvador Dali's work in the world, totaling over 2,400 pieces. The museum was ranked the 5th best art museum in America by USA Today readers, and the museum opened in 1982. It expanded into a striking new building in 2011. Now, the museum is expanding again. Last week, museum officials unveiled plans for a $65 million expansion that will add approximately 35,000 square feet to the property at 1 Dalí Boulevard. Here to talk about the plans is the executive director of the Dalí Museum, Hank Hine. Hank, thanks for coming across the bay and joining us.
Thank you, Matthew. It's a pleasure.
And if you're a fan of Dalí, maybe you're excited to see the new features after the expansion, you can join the conversation. The number is 813-755-6562. That's 813-755-6562. You can also email FloridaMatters at WUSF.org. Okay, so Hank, why this expansion and why now?
Well, the expansion has been a long time in coming, and why we need an expansion, we have a very serviceable building for displaying the original artworks for which it was designed. Mm-hmm. But we have found our niche over the last decade or so to be a little different. We use technology to shorten the distance between the artwork and the person's understanding and enjoyment.
Can you give me an example of that?
Yes, certainly. So we will use, for instance, augmented reality to allow someone to look at a painting and have it be deconstructed in front of their eyes with explanations about the different elements, why Dalí chose certain motifs, what the meaning of an image is, and in total giving you a sense that you are able to understand exactly what was going on in the artist's mind.
So, and you need more space to do that?
Yes, we do. We currently have been taking down these exhibitions, which are entertaining and informing, in order to get the next exhibition up. So the building was purpose-built for a finite collection of works on paper, works on canvas, sculptures, but it wasn't built for the electronic and the communal experiences that we see in the future.
How do you like to appreciate art? Like, do you like to get that full AR version of it, or do you like to just kind of stand in front of a painting or a print or a sculpture and appreciate it?
Well, I think we do both. We allow both at the Dalí, and that's our particular niche, that there are spaces for private contemplation, and certainly I enjoy that. But I would tell you that when I moved to this area and heard there was a Dalí Museum, I went to see it, and I was amazed by Dalí's technique. But I don't think I fully understood the range of idea and how brilliant his concepts of the individual and the society and our place in the cosmos were until I had a guided tour with a docent. And those are rare, and it's difficult always to have a live person who's knowledgeable at your side. So we use technology to augment that. And it really helps the appreciation of the art, even for someone who was schooled in art, as I was.
When did you move here?
1994.
Oh, wow.
To join the Institute for Research in Art at USF.
Okay. And so, like, were you aware of the museum kind of when you moved down, or was it a surprise that there was this kind of glorious collection of Dalí in this place?
Glorious collection is correct, and it was a total surprise for me. I had not heard of the museum, and I think that's the situation, or has been until recent years, when we realized the importance. You know, Matthew, this is the most important collection of a single artist in America. That is, there's no grouping of any major artist as large, as important, as far-ranging as this one. So that's pretty amazing. There's a terrific collection of an artist in Philadelphia of great importance. Of course, New York has lots of different artists and lots of works, but those are distributed around the world. This is concentrated here in our Bay Area. It's an amazing, amazing fact.
Do you have designs on other Dalí works elsewhere that you could bring to the museum? Is that part of the strategy?
Well, we have been able to bring some. They're very expensive.
Sure.
And there are very few that are not in public collections that are still maybe available for sale. Very few.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about art, right? Like, once the artist dies, that's it. There's no more supply of this thing.
That's right.
Yeah. If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Hank Hine. He's the executive director of the Dalí Museum, talking about the new expansion. So $65 million is not pocket change. That's quite a lot of money. How is that being funded?
Well, the Dalí Museum, as you know, is a big draw. We are an economic force in the community. And culture is at the center of a lot of economic activities. So people come from all over the world. Over 50% of our visitors are coming to the area expressly to see the Dalí Museum. So those people are coming in, they're staying days, they're staying in hotels, they're using our restaurants, they buy gas here, they get sundries at the stores. So you can see how the economic multipliers stack up.
Yeah, but that's kind of like the argument for sports stadiums, right? Like, I feel like there's a little bit of fuzzy math involved in some of these things. Like, it's kind of a bit of guesswork involved. Like, sure, it does bring people in, but can you actually measure it?
Well, the best that people can do is intercepts with visitors to the area, and all this has been confirmed by the very companies that the county uses to assess its success in reaching its public. So I don't think it's fuzzy at all. There are multipliers, but when you understand that there are $100 million of spending that can be attributed directly to the people who are coming into our area for the Dalí, then that's pretty solid.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So the funding for the museum, the initial funding came expressly for that from the county for marketing of the area. That is, an expanded Dalí with new experiences, with cutting-edge technology is going to draw people, and it's going to draw a wider demographic and a deeper one.
Okay, so and how much is coming from the county?
So initially, the county has granted us $25 million.
Okay. So you got a little over half of that, of the money you need to, a little less than half of the money you need, I should say.
Talk about fuzzy math. That's a lot less than half.
Yeah. Sorry, I got turned around there. But you've got to raise quite a bit. So $40 million or so you need to get this project done.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
How are you going to do it?
Well, we're doing it through private donations. We will look to our community for support with this. And that's why we're launching this campaign, and why we're so happy to have the opportunity with talking with you and letting people know about this.
Mm-hmm. Talk about flexible gallery environments. So you talked about kind of AI and the use of this technology to enhance people's experience of an artist like Dalí in a museum like this. But what is it about this new expansion that's going to be you're going to be able to kind of adapt to new exhibitions and things like that?
Yeah. So have you visited the Dalí recently?
Not recently. It's been a while, but I appreciate the fact you can enjoy the building itself without even going into it. I love the garden outside, but yeah, the museum is pretty cool.
Well, we try to make it a total experience, from garden to the inside to our cafe to the galleries, and now to these experiences that can be interactive. For instance, if we want to always be helping people learn, to grow in their lives, and that's a big part of our mission. So, for instance, one of our exhibitions is a wall of selfies in which you will take a picture of yourself and you choose an art style that you want to see yourself rendered in. And we take then the visitor through steps in which, say, for instance, an impressionist painter. Here is what an impressionist painter would do in approaching your portrait. Step one would be to choose a color palette that's drawn from nature but is exaggerated. So you would see that appear. So it would explain not only how this is happening stepwise, maybe in 4 or 5 steps you become an impressionist portrait, but it's also explaining to you how the AI which drives this is working. So we're helping our visitor learn both about art and about technology.
What's the timeline for this project?
We are going to break ground this summer, and we will be complete by the fall of 2028. So 2.5 years.
That's pretty ambitious for a project this size. So 35,000 or so square feet added to it. What is the size of the museum now?
So currently we're 60,000 square feet. We have an 8,000 square foot gallery and a 4,000 square foot gallery. The rest is store, cafe, support areas. So we're going to be adding a 7,000 square foot flexible gallery. We call it the flex space, because it can be partitioned. It can change from analog art, from hanging paintings on the wall, to a digital LED environment that can take you to any place in the world. Can be, the studios at WUSF. It can be Dalí's studio in Cadaqués, Spain, that's still maintained. It can be anything. And then it can change to be a community event space. It can hold a conference or a dinner or a wedding. It's an amazing space. We additionally have another 4,000 square feet in our learning pavilion, which will support big public school groups. We bring in over 10,000 students a year for free tours of the museum. We'll be able to triple that number in this space. It also will use the leading technology to help people share ideas. For instance, our innovation laboratory, which helps individuals and businesses solve problems creatively, that will have a place in that space as well.
So in the last 10 seconds or so here, will the museum stay open while this work's going on?
Yes, we'll stay open. There'll be a little obstruction just the last few months, but everything, including our wonderful dome and our music concerts there at the dome, will be open.
Well, Hank Hines, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. You're the Executive Director of the Dalí Museum, talking about the expansion set to break ground in summer. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Matthew.
Well, coming up next, gubernatorial candidate Jay Collins joins us, and if you've got questions for Lieutenant Governor Collins, you can call 813-755-6562 or email FloridaMatters@wusf.org. Florida Matters Live and Local continues in a moment. Stay with us.
Funding for WUSF comes from listeners like you, and also Rocky Mountaineer, offering luxury rail journeys through Canada's Rocky Mountains. Guests travel onboard glass dome trains with scenic views and onboard
We'll handle the pickup for free, and you'll get a tax deduction. And best of all, you'll fuel the news coverage and local shows that keep our community informed and connected. Call 866-WUSF-CAR or visit WUSF.org.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. More than 40 people want to be Florida's next governor. Ron DeSantis' lieutenant governor is one of them. Jay Collins is a decorated U.S. Army Special Forces combat veteran. As a Green Beret, he served in Iraq, South America, and Afghanistan, and that's where he was injured in combat and lost a leg. He was elected to the Florida Senate in 2022, representing the 14th District, covering part of Hillsborough County, and he was appointed lieutenant governor in 2025. Now he's running on a Republican ticket to be the state's next governor. Jay Collins joins us now. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Hey, good to be on. Thanks for having me.
And if you've got questions, you can join the conversation. Call 813-755-6562 or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. Before we get started, I just have to ask that the suit of armor in the background for our viewers on YouTube, what's that about?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm a dad and a husband first. When we got this, when we set up our home and we moved in here, it was a promise to our 13-year-old now that we would get a suit of armor. We found it in Ross's, of all places, and decided this is the perfect thing. We fulfilled our promise, box checked, and now it hangs out in my office, and it's a good conversation starter.
It sure is.
Obviously.
Okay, so what is your pitch to voters? Why do you want to be the next governor of Florida?
Well, look, first off, it's important to know that this was never my dream. 5 years ago, I wasn't even in politics. I've been in politics for less than 4 years. I've been a warrior and a leader my entire life. But here in Florida, we have 23.5 million people, $1.8 trillion economy, the 14th largest in our planet. You got to have somebody who's day one ready. I am. I've been tested and tried, whether in business, in combat, or in my role in the Senate and now as lieutenant governor. I'm the only person with executive office experience, and you got to be day one ready. There is no time for a warm up. I came into this race late. We're trickling up. And in the end, people get to choose. Pick the person who's not going to be overcome by events the first time something goes wrong. You need someone who's got experience, who's ready, and stands by to lead our people.
Now, let's talk about veterans' concerns. And of course, this is something close to your heart. You were a Green Beret. You served for 23 years. Thank you for your service, by the way. And you were awarded a Purple Heart. Now, as you know, Florida is home to a lot of veterans, right? Nearly 1.4 million. But 106,000 of them live below the federal poverty line. What would you do to help lift those veterans who are in that situation out of poverty?
Well, you know, I think there are several things. First off, we have just under 1.5 million veterans, 1.2 million spouses, 2.2 million children of veterans, and an undetermined amount of people who are somewhat related to the veteran community from there. It's an incredible thing. We are an incredibly and inherently veteran-friendly and focused state. So it's something near and dear to my heart for sure. So as a 23-year veteran, my wife is also a veteran. We take this incredibly seriously. When I got into the Senate, I had a 4-year strategy for what I wanted to do with veterans. I wanted to find ways to bring them here and put them in connection as they transition with leaders in our community. So I helped develop our Florida Department of Veterans Affairs Modernization Act to help them get recruited by our companies, by our state, and come in here and connect them with the right type of employers. I would love to see more opportunity using our Skill Bridge program, which is a federal program that helps draw people in, gives a 6-month internship, and connects them with our community businesses. Those type of things continue to happen. We've got our foot on the gas there. What I want to see is I would love to see us as a state lean in and help drive and guide the discussion in terms of transition, how we transition veterans. I think there's a lot more attention that could be tied into it in terms of nonprofits and for-profits partnering together to solve that exit strategy. Sometimes people fall through the gaps, and unfortunately, it happens more than we want. But in the end, we've got to reward our veterans, people who signed their name on that dotted line, and provide them real opportunity, whether it's rebranding themselves through education, bachelor's, master's, PhD, or more opportunity in the trades. This is a growing state. There's growing opportunity. We got to have room at the table for our veterans as they transition. The last thing we'll say is this. We got to be a little less stoic sometimes. One of the biggest problems that I encounter across the state, and I talk directly to my veteran friends about this, is you got to stop being stoic. You got to ask for help when you need it. I didn't know what I didn't know. And when I transitioned, I was very worried about what opportunities I was going to have. I was an Army Green Beret. I did some pretty interesting things around the planet, but there was no direct correlation to what I wanted to do or what I thought I could do necessarily. But the last piece is this. I would encourage our business leaders to come together, whether it's in forums, opportunities in job building and job creation, symposiums. Give our veterans a chance. Understand that, yes, they've been to combat. Yes, they've seen hard things, but those moments don't define them. They come out of this more often than not focused, driven, and ready to solve complex problems because they've been put out there solving those problems all over our planet. That's just a few of the things that we can do for veterans, and we have been doing, whether in the Senate or as Lieutenant Governor.
If you're just joining us on Florida Matters Live and Local, we're talking with Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins. He is running to be the next governor of Florida. You can join the conversation. Give us a call, 813-755-6562, or email floridamatters@wusf.org. I got to ask, though, it's a crowded field. There's a lot of people running. Congressman Byron Donalds is the leading Republican in the pack, according to the polls. In a press release in their campaign, they said, quote, Trump-endorsed Byron Donalds is the only proven conservative fighter who can unite Republicans, deliver on the president's America First agenda, crush the Democrats, and make Florida more affordable. Anyone running against Byron is an anti-Trump rhino and will be soundly defeated in the Republican primary, end quote. What do you make of that? First of all, is it fair to call any Republican running against Byron Donalds a rhino, Republican in name only?
Yeah, no, I don't see it that way. But in the end, look, I served under Trump. I did when he was president the first time. I got injured, requalified as a Green Beret, did all those incredible things. I love our president. I voted for him multiple times. I'm grateful for his leadership on a global scale. But, to me, let's talk about rhinos and let's talk about what that actually means. I passed 55 bills in 3 years. I passed constitutional carry. I blocked China from buying our ag land and critical infrastructure. I codified prayer in sports. I ran universal licensure, deregulating our process by which people can use their licensure in the state of Florida. I ran energy policy. They got rid of the Obama-era green energy systems and policies to save our taxpayers' dollars.
I would just note on that, sorry to interrupt, but a lot of folks actually like those policies. They appreciate the kind of options to having some kind of more green energy options out there. Are you still with us, Jay Collins?
Hello?
Yeah, it looks like your computer is frozen up for a moment. But are
yeah,
you
I'm
back
here.
with us? Yeah,
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I was just noting that the green energy policies. A lot of folks in Florida, as elsewhere, actually appreciate some of those green energy options to have out there.
Sure. Well, that doesn't mean we're not trying to take care of our state.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be very clear. Doing things just to signal that we're doing something green when it doesn't really make a difference for our people in terms of better energy quality, better content, or taking care of our coastlines or our infrastructure or our wildlife, those aren't necessary. What I'm talking about very specifically forced us to use Green Energy Star compliant contracting firms and companies and hotels, specifically within the energy system. Why would we do that? Follow the best business practice. Find the people who actually do the best job and are competent and capable of that. That is the type of stuff we're talking about. And in the end, yes, people can have their view by far. But in the end, energy should be reliable, affordable, and safe. And that's what our focus is on the state of Florida.
Stay with us if you could, Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, for a few more minutes. He's running for governor. You can join the conversation by calling 813-755-6562. We'll continue that conversation with candidate for the governor of Florida, Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, in a moment on Florida Matters, live and local.
WUSF depends on contributions from people like you. And Badawi Law, offering legal services in personal injury, immigration, and auto accidents, with offices in Tampa, Florida. Office information and practice details at badawilaw.com, or learn more on Instagram at Badawi Law.
Hi, I'm Kathy Durfee, the founder of Tech House here on the Gulf Coast of Florida. I'm a fan of WUSF. It seemed to me that I'd reached a point in my business where I could contribute. Join me in supporting WUSF.
Sponsorship info at wusf.org/sponsorship.
I'm Ricardo Cuomo, and I'm a WUSF Zimmerman School Radio News intern. At WUSF, I found an incredible group of people who supported me and taught me a lot throughout my time here. Everything I know about the radio industry, I owe it to them, and all the amazing opportunities I've had as an intern. With your help, future journalists like me can get the opportunities we need to grow in our careers.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. Let's get back to our conversation with Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, running on the Republican ticket to be the next governor of Florida. I want to just come back to the affordability issue. We kind of touched on it a little bit with the veterans, but it is a big issue. I mean, we hear it from our listeners. It's in polls. It's important to Floridians, like trying to get on the property ladder, pay the rent, pay the bills, put food on the table. What would you do day one if you're elected governor to help Floridians kind of get a hand up and make a better life for themselves?
Yeah, no, good question. And it's actually probably the number one thing we hear from people every day across the state of Florida. I want to refocus the affordability conversation just a hair. The American dream and what I believe is American exceptionalism is not predicated on just getting by. It's on raising that up, bringing more opportunity, getting higher paid jobs and salaries. To do that, I think Marco Rubio talked about this 15 years ago, one of his first books.
Sure.
You've got to bring in more manufacturing, more of those mid-tier jobs. The average tradesman's 58 years old in Florida right now. That's a real issue. I have a bachelor's, I have a master's, nothing wrong with that. But not everybody wants to do that. You've got to inject more opportunity for the younger people in trades, in things like that. So those who want to go into other roles have those opportunities as well. But we got to bring in partners and businesses that raise the roof and bring in more real long-term, stable paying jobs, high paying jobs. Look at opportunities in shipbuilding. Across the state, one plant brings in 5,000 jobs over 80,000. Another reciprocal 25,000 jobs into the economy above 65K.
So you're saying more shipbuilding in
well,
in
I think
Florida?
that's one small aspect of it. But then you also have to look at the insurance and you have to look at the property tax aspects.
Sure.
So we've done a lot with tort reform. It's worked. We were down to one insurance company. We're at 17 now. Our rates are stabilizing.
But
let me finish.
On the other side,
Let me finish.
I just need to say, like, people's property insurance rates are still going up, right?
Well, no, actually, I can show you all of the data where they're normalizing. Some maybe, but they're overall, those rates are filing across the state, filing down. Same thing with auto insurance. But what else can we do is the discussion part of this. So there are more things we can do in transparency. There's a little bit more we can do in terms of tort and some of that discussion, but largely it's going to come in transparency and accountability. When we find somebody who doesn't pay through, who doesn't coordinate and connect with their people in the insurance world directly, and they don't do the right thing, well, there has to be accountability if that's proven, right? One of the things I would encourage people to do is to use some of the helplines that are out there, whether it's for the CFO and his team during disaster or outside of it. Let them know if there's something that doesn't make sense. It's the same way with our attorney general. Let folks know when you see something, say something. The last part is property tax. And the reason we're having this really big discussion right now across the state of Florida on property tax is, while we can do many things in insurance, we don't pull all the levers on it. There's a large portion of that that's federal. But property tax is something we can solve here.
Right.
But let's be very, very clear. If we want to abolish homesteaded property tax, if you're going to do that, we got to make sure that we don't harm education, fire, roads, or our law enforcement. Those things common to all, sanitation as well, of course.
Yeah.
And I think it can be done. Right now, across the state of Florida, less than 30% of the property tax dollars that we get are from homesteaded property. And just as a reminder, the state gets $0. Those go to the municipalities and cities and counties.
Yeah.
So those are things we can do right now to help put better jobs in play. We can drop and bring down the insurance rates further, but we can also solve and put money in people's pockets via property tax. Those are all different levers we can pull.
Let me just get a call on there if I could. We've got Dave calling in from Sarasota. Dave, quickly if you can, you're on the air.
So let me just go forward real quick here. We're in the Sunshine State, and cutting that green energy credit, Jay Collins, was such a biff, man. Not only that, I think you're wildly out of touch with the property tax actual data. Like at both of my homes went up 20% year over year. So I don't think you're really on the same ballpark as your average constituent.
Are you talking property tax or property insurance?
Property insurance, my apologies. Also, property tax just barely went up on my homesteaded property, but it went up substantially on my non-homesteaded property. So I'm all for the getting rid of the property tax, but insurance is still wildly out of control. Thank you.
Dave, thanks for your call. Okay, so one call is opinion. Your thoughts, Lieutenant Governor?
Yeah, so we're continuing to work on the property tax. I think we covered that. And then insurance, happy to have that discussion in more depth. Do me a favor. You guys got my contact. Reach out, connect us with the constituent, and we'll solve those issues and have a discussion. But let's just unpack that. The data and the rate filings through the PSC show that they are being filed at a hold or a drop across the way. But I'll tell you, mine didn't drop. Mine stabilized. And not everybody's has. I get that. And I wish that was a magic wand. But there are things we can do, and we are doing from a transparency standpoint and in terms of accountability right now in the Senate and in the House.
Yeah.
Those bills have to get pushed through, and then we can see some savings. But in the end, those are the two levers. I think it's important to realize that with insurance and property tax, you got to actuate money back in people's pockets. And that's why the property tax discussion is so critical, because we control the levers in the state.
Yeah.
I wish I could solve all the other issues. And the last part, let's talk about the green energy. You know, look, we didn't say you can't have solar panels. What we said is they aren't going to be a primary function in terms of planning our strategy. Less than 5% of our energy comes from that. They're highly subsidized. It was the same thing with windmills. We only have about 5.5 miles per hour sustained winds here. You need 8.2 on the coastlines to do that. And it's an ecologic nightmare to get rid of and bury and destroy the windmills and the blades. So that's why we did what we did in that bill. It's not out of touch. Florida does incredible things in terms of preserving our coastline, because our number one facet of our economy is tourism. We understand that. Yeah. We want to make sure that why we moved to the state of Florida, we maintain that. You got to control and keep track and keep care of our state and our tourism business. No, I appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Just one more question, if I could, before we let you go, Lieutenant Governor. Chris Kenny in Tampa writes, you've been a supporter and sponsor of relaxation on gun laws. How can you justify blanket support for the Second Amendment when the lethality of firearms as a result of technological advances makes them far more dangerous and beyond the scope of comprehension of what our founders could foresee 235 years ago when it was written in light of some 100-plus gun deaths daily in the U.S. versus our European, Japanese, and our Canadian counterparts?
Yeah, well, this is the United States of America, and we do protect our right to bear arms. That is how our founding fathers intended it. But let's talk about that as well. That is a very liberal talking point being thrown out there without really understanding the situation. We do have a problem, but it's a societal problem that's far left of the gun or the handgun. Let me ask you this. Why are we going to take away rights from the 98% of people who do the right thing every single day, law-abiding citizens, limit their ability to do what they want to do, how they want to live their lives, because certain people do the wrong thing? Accountability and holding people accountable when they commit a crime has to happen. We have to have better security. And that's why when we did do, and I did sponsor permitless carry, we also tied it into school safety, protecting those things and those people that are most important to us. Look, I have been through hard times, but I also know this. Our right to bear arms is inherent to our Constitution because it protects our people. It gives them the right to protect themselves. And it's something I do stand for, and I won't apologize for that. I'll always stand up to protect those constitutional freedoms. And while I appreciate the fact that we aren't going to agree on everything, ask folks who wish they had something when things went wrong, how it could have been different had they been able to protect themselves. And to be clear, a lot of the things he's talking about, you can't run around with rockets and missiles and all those things in warfare, right? What we passed was permitless carry. That was my bill. So you have the right to keep your handgun, carry it without a permit. And we can have a bigger discussion, if you would like, on the right to bear arms as it pertains to 18 to 21 and our rifles, and whether if you're old enough to serve our nation, you should be able to purchase a gun. I think you should. I do support our gun rights, but I think there's a lot more nuances within the piece of legislation I ran. And again, I do want to thank the caller or the emailer, whatever it was, for his point of view. We can't all get along on everything. We can get along on most things, I think.
Well, Lieutenant Governor Jay Collins, I know you got a busy schedule, so thank you so much for spending some time with us. He's a Republican running to be the next governor of Florida. Appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you.
Well, let's bring political journalist William March into the conversation. William, it's a very crowded race in the field for the governor's mansion. I'm just wondering, are there some candidates that you're paying particular attention to, and why? William, are you with us? Okay, looks like we're still waiting on William March there. Yeah. Okay, William, are you there, sir? Looks like we've got some audio issues. Just stand by for a moment. We're going to talk with. Yeah, here we go. Okay,
Matthew,
William. Yeah, let me.
Matthew, I think I'm back now.
You're back. Yeah. So let me put that question to you. It's a pretty crowded field of gubernatorial candidates, right? 41 people running to be governor. Who stands out to you? Who are you paying attention to?
Well, I think Jay Collins, who we've just been listening to, is definitely one of the people to pay attention to, even though he's pretty far back in the pack in polling right now. In the Republican primary, Byron Donalds is a pretty long distance leader, but there's a large, in many polls, 50% undecided vote. I think it's entirely likely, and of course, Donalds is benefiting heavily from the endorsement of Donald Trump, but it's highly likely that Jay Collins eventually will get the support of Ron DeSantis and members of his team. That will help him. He's also likely to be competitive in fundraising. So on the Republican side, those are the two people I'm paying most attention to. Now there's, of course, a third fairly well-known candidate, and a fourth, Paul Renner. Right now, neither of them shows signs of being competitive in polling, but they both appeal to certain segments of the party.
Yeah, we're a pretty
on the Republican side.
Yeah, we're a pretty Republican state too, right? I mean, it's solidly red, whereas a few years ago it was kind of purple state, a swing state, so to speak. Who would you see popping out of the Democratic pack to maybe have a chance here?
It was a purple state. It no longer seems to be that way. Democrats have not won a statewide race since 2012, even though they came very close in a couple of subsequent races, 2016, for example. But Republicans have a huge voter registration advantage, 5.5 million to 4 million Democrats, and just under 4 million other and no party. So it's a difficult, very difficult landscape for Democrats. A lot of people are thinking that the midterms will be a Democratic win because of the unpopularity of Donald Trump and some of his policies, but it would have to be a pretty big tidal wave for a Democrat in Florida to stand a good chance in a statewide race. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it would take a pretty major upheaval, electoral upheaval.
Yeah. Before we let you go, I wanted to ask about something completely different. Attorney General James Uthmeier accusing Tampa Mayor Jane Castor of, quote, forcing sanctuary policies on the Tampa Police Department. He says if the city doesn't fully cooperate with immigration enforcement, the mayor faces removal from office. What do you make of that?
I'm pretty surprised by it. Now, Ron DeSantis has done this a couple of times before, removing the Hillsborough State Attorney Andrew Warren and Orange County State Attorney Monique Worrell from office on the contention that they were refusing or failing to enforce certain laws. In this case, he's accusing Jane Castor, the mayor, of failing to have the city police department cooperate fully with immigration enforcement. Now, frankly, his grounds seem a little bit thin. The city of Tampa has, in fact, signed agreements with all of the federal agencies involved to work cooperatively on immigration enforcement. What they haven't done, according to Uthmeier, is agreed to release names and identification of witnesses to crimes and victims of crimes.
We're going to have to let the conversation go there, but political journalist William March, thank you so much for your insights. Really appreciate it.
Sure.
Well, coming up next, Central Florida's own Carverotti, the opera-singing car salesman, stops by. Stick around for that conversation in a moment.
I'm Peter O'Dowd. After a music promoter found a 50-year-old record in the stacks at a thrift store, a Canadian rock band is getting its long-lost chance at fame.
It just boggled me. It was something right out of the blue. It was just really, it was really kind of exciting in a way.
That's next time, here and now.
Join us this afternoon from 1 to 3 on WUSF 89.7.
Support for WUSF comes from listeners like you and from Brandon Business Machines. Brandon Business Machines is a locally owned and operated office equipment dealer and IT support company. They've been serving the Tampa Bay area for 44 years with copier and computer sales and service. Online at bbmusa.com. Visit Gainesville. Alachua County is home to one of the largest remaining mature hardwood forests in Florida. Freshwater springs, and prairie landscapes with wild roaming bison and horses. Visitors can stroll, pedal, paddle, or zip line through nature. Visit Gainesville.com.
Want to understand how Florida's government really works and how to make your voice count? I'm editor Amy Tardif. Your Florida offers explainers, legislative reporting, and community engagement that puts you at the center of the story. And we cover the latest in the legislative session. Visit wusf.org/yourflorida.
Welcome back to Florida Matters Live and Local. I'm Matthew Petty. This week, everyone threw tomatoes after actor Timothée Chalamet disparaged ballet at opera.
And I don't want to be working in ballet or opera or, things where it's like, hey, keep this thing alive, even though no one cares about this anymore.
No one cares about this anymore. Well, at the same time, an opera-singing car salesman from Florida's Space Coast has been eclipsing the moment. I don't know whether to laugh or kind of weep with admiration there. You might know him as Luciano Carverotti. People commenting on his video say his voice is worth leasing a car for life. You might have even seen him as the iconic commander from the Don Giovanni, the Vero Beach Opera, or heard his dulcet bass baritone voice and performance with the St. Pete Opera, Opera Naples, Opera Orlando, or the Gulf Coast Symphony. Andrew Allen Hires, a bass baritone opera singer, singing actor, and recently car salesman, made the trek all the way from Cocoa, Florida to be with us today. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Andrew, when was the moment you realized things were taking off for you online?
It was immediate. I actually was going to post to my TikTok on an alternate channel that I just started, and it was a happy accident that I posted to my main channel that has 6,000 followers already, and it just took off immediately. Comments, likes, shares. And I now have 25,000 followers. So 4 times what I had before. The reach has just been overwhelming.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you've seen him on social media, maybe you've captured his performances in Florida, maybe you bought a car from him, you can join the conversation, 813-755-6562, or email FloridaMatters@wusf.org. What about that comment from Timothy Chalamet that made headlines? How did you feel hearing those kind of comments about our opera?
I think there's two ways to look at it. I think it was a very thoughtless comment he made just in passing. Why do you need to take a shot at these loved art forms that have been around long before any of us were here and will be going on long after we're gone? But he decided to not stay in his lane, and I think that kind of galvanized people to show their support for it. So I look at the positive of that while also saying I think it was a thoughtless comment. So maybe not give him the hardest time, but it's kind of cool how that's coincided with my videos going viral. So I'm happy about it. If he buys a Corvette for me, all's forgiven.
Okay. Now, you're an opera singer by training. You performed at the Lincoln Center. How did you get into the car dealership business?
Well, opera is no job security. You don't have HR to go to, so you always have to keep generating new gigs. And my last one was in April with the Cleveland Institute of Music. They hired me as a guest artist to do the Commendatore and Don Giovanni. And I was trying to get gigs from that, and odd jobs just weren't moving the needle. You can't do minimum wage in today's economy. So car sales are a way to make a good amount of money in a short amount of time. My last name is Hires, like Boniface Hires, the dealership. It's a distant relation, but we are related. I didn't want people to think I'm a trust fund baby. But it's nice to go somewhere where everybody knows your name.
All right, so you're not an opera or car salesman Nepo baby. Good to know. So, car salesmen don't always have the greatest reputation. How do you feel about that cliche, and do you feel like you're kind of breaking the mold a bit there?
Yeah, that's kind of the challenge when people are getting out of their cars and you see 4 or 5 car salesmen waiting to talk to them can be a bit intimidating. So trying to manage, you want to be the first one to talk to them, but also just be, no pressure. I try and approach everybody like, I just want to get to be your friend first. If we find a car that you love, let's get a deal you're happy about.
There's actually a skateboarding car salesman over here on this side of Florida. Have you met that guy?
No, I never heard about it. I'll have to check that out. I'm sure he's on social media doing well.
Absolutely, yeah. There's maybe some collaboration involved. There could be some possibilities there.
Fantastic. Yeah, there actually was a ballet company in Cocoa that reached out. They just posted today the ending of Nessun Dorma, and they were all dancing around me. And that was kind of a fortuitous response to the Chalamet comments.
Yeah. So what would you say to artists like yourself? I mean, you've clearly put a lot of time and training into opera. Was that like, let me sort of roll that back a little bit. Was this what you wanted to do for a living when you were coming up?
Opera?
Yeah.
I actually fell in love with musical theater first. Started out as a choir kid. I don't know if that comes through in my vibe, but definitely a choir and theater kid. And I fell in love with musical theater when I took a music appreciation class. And when I did a competition for college, there was a professor there that asked, what do you want to do? I said, I'd love to do musical theater. You don't really have a musical theater voice, Andrew. You have an opera voice. And turns out they were right. Well, your technique's just a little bit different. So we have a more raised soft palate and a lower laryngeal position. We're trying to create the most space for the sound to resonate where we can fill up an entire hall acoustically. In musical theater, they've got a microphone, so they're just trying to do the small space, kind of like what we're doing here with the microphones. You don't have to make the biggest sound here, and it'll be pumped out there.
Can you sing a little bit for us?
Yeah, absolutely. Come to Cocoa and buy a car, please. Ask for Andrew, your opera car singing guru.
What do you like singing in? Like, there's a lot of opera in Italian, obviously, and probably some in German and other languages too. Some English opera as well. Like, where do you go to first?
Well, I find with my native tongue, when I sing in English, there's just that easier connection to it. Italian lends itself very well to singing.
Sounds amazing, doesn't it? I mean, I have no idea what they're saying, but it sounds it's such a great language to listen to.
After you do about 3 dozen operas in Italian, you do start to get better at it, but you really have to immerse yourself in the language. So I don't speak Italian fluently, but you have to take a year of Italian, French, and German for most undergrad music degrees. So I know enough in a lot of languages to embarrass myself in a lot of places.
Right. Have you ever sort of busted out some opera Italian? Like, have you traveled to Italy?
I've never been to Italy, but my partner, who is also a very talented opera singer, she's actually in France now working on a world premiere. She made her debut in the fall, and when we went to Paris, we went to a few sites. And when I went to the Palais Garnier, where Phantom of the Opera is famously set at, right out front, I busted out some "The Phantom of the." I don't want to get you in licensing trouble with all that,
right?
But I'm not embarrassed. Or we went to the Moulin Rouge and I sang "Come What May," and more often than not, the audience, well, not audience, but the people just out and about, they'll stop, turn their heads, and they'll clap afterwards, which is so validating.
Throw you some euros, perhaps?
Yeah, I got to put the hat out there for that, or else they throw them right at you.
Yeah. Does your partner have a side gig as well?
She's a voice teacher that is well sought after. She's actually a celebrity in our field. So people who are opera fans might recognize the name Chelsea Lene. But if you're not an opera aficionado, I don't blame you for not understanding.
Yeah. We're talking with Andrew Allen Hires, the opera singing car salesman. You might have seen him in social media or read about him recently in the Washington Post. You can give us a call if you want to have a chat. Got a question for him, 813-755-6562 is the number, or email FloridaMatters@WUSF.org. So when you were, and I should note for our listeners too, you are at Eldest Millennial on TikTok. When you're sort of in the practice rooms, coming up as a young singer, did you ever imagine internet virality would be how you would be recognized?
You have to be open to whatever opportunities you have. I talk to so many people, they're like, oh, I'm not on social media. And I'm just like, I wish I could be not on social media, but trying to make your brand known, you have to use whatever avenue is available to you. So I started taking my love for musical theater and using my opera technique to show that off. And that got me a little bit of a following. But then the moment I take that step back and I stop striving to prove I'm this opera singer and use it for the car sales, that's when people turned on to it. It's kind of wild.
Are there certain cars that you can sell better with throwing a bit of opera in there?
I'm trying to give every car some love. So usually it's the Corvette, the Camaro, but I did take out the most affordable car we had on our lot and gave it a little bit of love. So we've got used cars of every brand, but then the new Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Cocoa, Florida. So just trying to do whatever I can to make the cars feel loved. And also when someone's looking at a car, I can say, this one comes with a story. The Corvette did get sold. Somebody else sold it, and I made a video about that from Una Furtiva Lagrima.
Oh, wow. And so you've got, obviously, good ability to project your voice as an opera singer, if it's just kind of like lurking in the back of the lot and you were able to sort of reach somebody over the other side with your singing?
Exactly. When I did the first one that went viral with the Corvette, one of the other salesmen was on the other side and was just like, I could hear you all the way over here. His name's Alex, and he was like, you got to put that on TikTok. And I was going to, but the moment I put it on that main page and it blew up, I was like, Alex was completely right.
So I'm guessing it's not just opera on your playlist, right? What else are you listening to?
I'm actually a big film score nerd. So John Williams is my guy. I've never gotten to meet the man, but I would love to. He's getting up there, I understand. And he's got a new film. We have one more film score coming from John Williams, and I can't wait for it to come out. Alan Silvestri, Michael Giacchino, James Horner, the great Ennio Morricone. But yeah, musical theater or the stuff that was on the radio when my parents were younger. I like a lot of classic rock.
Yeah, John Williams is incredible, right? Like, what's your favorite film score of his?
Oh, I have so many. But if you're going to take the greatest film score that has ever been made is E.T. from start to finish.
Really?
It's so operatic in its way. Yeah, you can just, without the sound on, it's fantastic.
Yeah. Now, where can people see you next?
Come down to the car dealership in Cocoa. I don't have any gigs lined up. It's been so lovely that the reception of that has given me hope that there is more performing coming forward. But my situation hasn't changed. I'm focusing on getting good at car sales. I've actually only sold one car so far. I've gotten a couple leads because of these videos, but no one's signed on the dotted line. So hoping to make that second sale so I'm not a a car salesman. I want to be a salesman.
All right. Well, Andrew Allen Hires, the opera singing car salesman. Thank you so much for stopping by. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Coming up next week on Florida Matters Live and Local, meet Anthony Gilbert. He's the man behind a popular Instagram account providing down-to-earth food reviews. Call Anthony, and he wants to be the next mayor of Tampa. If you've got questions for Anthony about his priorities for the city or questions about where to find the best inexpensive food at gas stations, convenience stores, or other eateries, you can call and leave a message, 813-755-6562, or email FloridaMatters at WUSF.org and join the conversation on Monday. That's our show for today. Our executive producer is Grayson Doctor. Our producers are Amelie Horace and Quincy Walters. Our engineers are Jackson Harp and Gio Garvin. Jackson composes our theme music. Malika Hollis handled the video today. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and watch Florida Matters live and local on WUSF's YouTube channel. I'm Matthew Petty. Thanks for listening and watching, and have a fantastic weekend.